fish pose. Let yourself just relax completely into this pose. So let go of any tension in your shoulders. Let the elbows come out as comfortably as possible so that your elbows are on the floor, so they're not sort of hovering if you can. So that might mean that your arms are out to the side straight rather than cactus. I know mine struggle to touch if I try and take the cactus arms. And then, as I say, you can have the soles of your feet together and the knees out to the side if you like. But just check in, see how you're feeling in your body, in your breath. If you've got a cold or a blocked up nose, breathe in and out through the mouth. Just take those nice, smooth, steady breaths, however you're breathing. So inhaling, filling up the lungs so that the belly rises a little bit, the ribs expand sideways. And perhaps opening the mouth and sighing out, letting go. Doing this a few more times. Inhaling through the nostrils, letting the hips really feel solid and grounded. And exhaling, opening the mouth, sighing out. And just continue to breathe in and out, either through your mouth or your nose. Just finding this rhythm of smooth, steady breath. So taking your own rhythm today. Trying to get this samavriti, so this equal breath in and out. And just in this stillness at the beginning of your class, just setting your intention, as we always do at the beginning of class, for the rest of the day or just for this practice. Perhaps it's a particular thing that you want to achieve today, or a way you want to feel, or maybe it's just to be present. Lovely, just take a few more breaths like this, breathing in and out, filling the belly up, letting the ribs expand, and breathing out. One more breath here, inhaling and exhaling. Lovely. If you have got your feet in Baddha Konasana with the soles of your feet together and the knees out to the side, just bring your hands down and the knees come in towards each other. And then press yourself up, lowering yourself back flat onto your back as you take the blocks out to the side. And just hug your knees in briefly, rock your spine, feel the whole of your spine lengthening on the ground, rocking it side to side, and then maybe rounding the spine a little bit, bringing the chin up, perhaps still staying with those rocks, or maybe just finding stillness. And then you're going to make your way up to a tabletop. So you can do this by holding behind your thighs if you like, rocking and rolling. I like to do this, just really feeling a little bit of a massage on my spine, crossing the ankles and coming all the way into a tabletop. So before we start to take any more deep stretches, let's just take a few cat and cows, knees into the spine, just ease into the body, warming up, breathing in, bring the tailbone up, heart sinks down, look up, and exhale, press the ground away, protract through the upper back, look between the knees or the thighs. Take two more, inhaling as you come up, lovely, and exhaling as you round. Good, one more, inhale. And exhale to round. Good, and then just come to a tabletop position and come all the way up to kneeling. So we're going to take a gate pose. Have a block at your left side, so I'm not mirroring you, and stretch out the right leg to the side. Good, so we're going to just flow, so we're going to take a few dynamic stretches and then hold in this deep stretching class. So as you inhale, just lift that left arm up and over and stretch down towards the right side. Find that openness, so maybe turning to look underneath. Breathe here, just holding this for a couple of breaths to start. Breathe out. You can have your back toe tucked or untucked, depends how it feels to you. Sarah's joining us now. Hello, Sarah. Lovely. Then inhale, come back to center. Bring that right hand down towards the block or the mat if you have the space. Left arm reaches up and over. Right arm reaches up and over. Then come back to center. Inhale here and exhale, change direction. Move through this a few more times. Inhale back to center. Exhale, let that right arm sweep up and over. Inhale back to center. And exhale this way. Lovely. One more. Inhale back to center. Stretching the right arm across the ear. And come back to center. And then reach that right arm down again. Left arm up and over your ear. Turn and look underneath the left armpit towards the ceiling if you can. Good. And just find a nice side body stretch in this gate pose. Try and think about lengthening the tailbone down a little bit. Not too much, you're not tucking it under, you're just lengthening it down. You'll feel a little bit more of an intensity in this stretch. Just take about 4 more breaths in. Breathing in and out, through the nose or through the mouth. Finding that breath in your body, breathing into the left side. Lovely. So breathing in and out with your own rhythm. Lovely, next breath in, come all the way back to center. Release the hands down, find yourself in tabletop. And then take the other side, so move the block to the other side. So I've got it on the highest level, but you might have it low level or not at all. And come into gate with the left leg out. All the way up, and lengthen the tailbone down, so I should have said that first before. Make sure that left foot's grounded and your right toes can be tucked or untucked. And then reach the left arm down as the right arm comes up and over. Okay, just hold it for a couple of breaths here to start. Maybe turn and look underneath the armpit so that you're really opening up a little bit. You'll feel it more intensity in your right side body. See if you can breathe smoothly and steadily. Okay. You'll look really strong. You'll look so good. And then come back to center. Exhaling, bring the right hand down. Left arm stretches over. Keep grounding through the left foot. Then breathe in, come back to center. Hello, Sarah. We've only just started. Exhale over to the other side. Lovely. Inhale back to center. And exhale, just move with your breath. If you're moving slightly faster than me, that's fine. Inhale back to center and exhale. So getting a bit of dynamic movement, but keep the integrity as you lengthen the spine down. Lengthen the tailbone down. Exhale. Good. Next time you come up, over to the other side. Hold it with your left arm reaching down towards the left leg. Stretching the right arm up and over. So feeling the other side opening up, turning to gaze underneath the right armpit maybe, finding a nice openness in that right side. Good. See if you can breathe deeply into this right side. Inhaling. And exhale. Lovely. Come all the way back to center and find your way back to tabletop again. Make sure you've got blocks and strap close by, just in case you need them. I'm not saying you will, but you never know, you might want them. Bring your hands under your shoulders, knees under hips, tuck your toes, and come up to a nice downward facing dog. So Adho Mukha Svalasana, bending one knee, bending the other, just pedaling the feet, warming up into the backs of the legs. So we're just warming up slowly before we hold even longer. Good, and when you're ready, find stillness in your down dog. Just notice how you feel at the backs of your legs, shoulders, how the whole of your body is feeling and how your breath is with your body. Lovely, and then we're going to just move through a little bit of it's like a vinyasa, but it's really sort of mobilizing into your spine. So you might want to watch to start with, but you're going to sort of almost take almost a rounding of your spine. So it's almost like a forward folding and a rounding. It's undulating through your spine, really. So as you inhale, you're going to come forwards, lifting your hips up, tucking your tailbone under, like you're rounding into a plank. And then you exhale, you're not going into chaturanga, you're keeping your toes tucked, and you're coming into this upward dog variation. Inhale here, and then exhale, bend your knees, reach your hips back towards your heels, downward facing dog. Do that a few more times. So start to tuck the tailbone under so that you're rounding the back. You're coming forwards into what's called a rolling wave. As you exhale, start to come forwards in this variation of an upward facing dog with the toes still tucked. Yeah, I know it's weird to do things different. And then reach your hips back towards your heels and find downward facing dog. So do that 2 more times. Rolling wave, tailbone tucks underneath, rounding through the spine, coming to a solid plank, and then letting the hips sink, finding the heart, opening the shoulder blades, reach back towards each other. Lovely. And then bend the knees, hips reach back towards the heels, downward facing dog. 1 more. Come forwards, rolling waves. So tuck the tailbone under, round through the spine. Come into that steady plank. And then let the hips sink, but not land. Shoulder blades reach towards each other. And then bend the knees. So it's sort of a modified vinyasa. And find downward facing dog again. So that's just mobilizing and sort of moving your spine in this undulating way. Get all the movement in your spine. Warming up a bit. Right, let's start with our little bit more serious deep stretching. So step your right foot to the top of the mat and bring your right knee down. Good. You might want your blocks either side of you. Bring the ground up to you if you want. Make sure you either fold your mat to protect that left knee or use a blanket. Move the knee back a little bit further. Good. And then you're going to find yourself in this low lunge. Just draw the shoulders back towards each other and try and keep this sort of openness in your collarbones. Really let yourself sink down into this hip. Okay, take a few breaths here, breathing in. So this is a lizard lunge, and breathing out. Inhaling, and exhaling. Lovely, everyone. You're looking really strong. Bring your shoulders back a little bit more. So often we do these sort of things, but we don't hold them for very long. Think about maybe getting this a little bit more stretch into here by pressing down into the front of the foot, that left foot. And imagine pulling that right out hip back and the left out hip forwards. So you've got a little bit of engagement there, but you're still stretching. So you're pressing down, and imagine pulling that left out hip forwards, right out hip back. Good, and breathe into it. And then relax that tension. Let yourself sink forwards a little bit more. Lovely. Okay, just take one more breath here, inhaling and exhale. Good. Then just bring the blocks inside of that right foot. I'll turn so you can see me, because I'm on a grey mat sometimes you can't see me clearly. And then heel toe that right foot to the side, so that the right foot's pointing to the right side of the mat and the knee and the toes are in one line. Good. And then you can either stay high if you like, or you can come down onto your elbows, either on a block or onto the floor if you have the space. So just give it a go, see where you are if you have the space. Come down onto your elbows, so this nice lizard lunge. Opening up into the side of that hip, but more leaning into this hip flexor on the left. So where I'd like you to feel it is on the right hip, but go easy on your hip, Ali, and on the left hip flexor. And just breathe into this space here. Just with a few more breaths. We're not going to hold them for any huge length of time, but just a little bit longer than normal. And just progressively move through the hips, the hip flexors, hamstrings. Lovely. And stay with that breath. Stay with that intention to be present. Lovely. And then come back a little bit higher if you were on your elbows. And just bring your right hand to the inside of that knee. Maybe you're going to come onto the outside of that right foot a little bit as the inside instep lifts up. Sinking into the left hip flexor a little bit more. I know it's intense. And then we're going to either stay here, or you're going to bend that knee, the left knee, and reach around and grab a hold of the foot. If this is impossible for you or too difficult this morning, that's okay, that's what you've got your band for, or your dressing gown board, or wherever. And you're going to bring that behind your foot, so it's on the top of your foot, and just hold on to your band. Maybe wrap it around your hand. If you've got the band or the foot, kick the foot against your hand or the band, so you've got a little bit of resistance there as well in your hip flexor. And let that turn and open your right shoulder a little bit so that you're looking behind you. So you're getting a little bit of a twist as well. Yeah, see if it feels good, you can sink a little bit more into this left hip flexor. Coming down a little bit more and breathing in and out into that space. Lovely. Keep kicking that foot back into the hand so that you feel this sort of energy in the hip flexor on the left. So this deep stretching is quite different from a yin practice. It's a lot more active. It's a lot more muscle engagement in the stretch. Lovely. And then keep a hold of that foot. If you can, turn and face your shoulders to the front. So you might come off the outside edge of that right foot and just turn and bring your shoulders to face the front. And maybe that heel can come closer to your hips. So you'll feel it slightly differently now. Are you okay, Ali? Is that hurting? Not good on your hip? Just take some circles. Well done. Take a few more breaths here. I know it's intense doing this all on one side. Whew. So feeling intense on me anyway. Inhale. Whew. And exhale. Just let go of that leg for the moment and come up to this low lunge, still on that left knee. Bring the right hand to that knee. Just one more stretch on this hip flexor on this left for the moment. Bend that knee and reach around with the same hand. So the left arm reaches around now, not the right. And grab a hold of the foot. If you can't quite grab a hold of the foot, and go easy on your knees, Lisa. I hope this is alright. I was thinking of your knees and your hips, Ali. And then, if you can, turn your toes, so turn your fingers to face the front and the elbow faces behind. Just opens the shoulder differently. Doesn't matter if you can't quite do that. It's no problem. It's just a different variation. Otherwise, hold on to the foot, turn and make sure your shoulders, try and get your shoulders to face the front of the mat. Maybe lift up a little bit higher and maybe lengthen the tailbone under a little bit more to intensify it if you want to. Okay, breathe into that space. I know it's quite intense. And breathe out. Ooh, one more breath. Inhale. You okay, Sarah? And exhale. Oh, release that. Oh, come into a hamstring stretch. Let's get off that hip flexor. So just straighten into the right knee. Flex the right toes up. Good. If you need your blocks, that's okay. Bring the ground up to you, remember. And bring that right out hip back, left out hip forwards. Try not to let the back hip sink back to your heel like this. Try and keep the knee and the hip in one line here. Yeah. And then reach forwards with your chin as though you're trying to reach your chin towards your toes. Keep working that right out hip backwards, so you've got this sort of pulling back and also reaching forwards action. So you really feel this intensely in your hamstrings. Breathe in. And breathe out. One more breath. Inhale. We'll do more on the hamstrings, I promise you, in a little while. And exhale. And then bend into that right knee. I'm going to move my blocks forwards. And just step back into a tabletop and take a child's pose. Bend both knees, reach the hips back, reach the arms forward. You might feel a bit differently in one leg than the other. Oh, my left hip flexor is really feeling a little bit energetic, a little bit stretched. And just breathe into the space where you feel it the most. Taking a brief breather between sides. Lovely, enough of a rest. Let's go back into tabletop. Whew. Spine downward facing dog again. Reach the hips up. This feels quite nice right now. Maybe bend one knee, bend the other. Let's do a few more of those rolling waves. So a few more of those sort of vinyasa variations. So lift the heels up, tuck the tailbone under, roll through a rounded spine all the way to a plank. And then come into that up dog variation with the toes tucked under. This is a really nice stretch for your plantar fascia. And then exhale, bend the knees, hips reach back towards the heels. And hips up to the ceiling. I seem to remember doing something like this in your Pilates class once, Lord. Lovely. Lift the hips up, the heels up. Tuck the tailbone under, rolling way forwards. And then come into this up dog variation. Maybe draw the shoulder blades towards each other a bit more. Bend the knees, hips reach back towards the heels, downward facing dog. One more of those. Lift the heels up, tuck the tailbone under, get that nice roundness so you're rolling through the spine, coming into a flat back, and then letting the hips sink towards the ground but not touching, shoulder blades draw towards each other. And then hips reach towards the heels. And downward facing dog. Alright, let's do all of that hip flexor work on the other side. So step the right foot between, your left foot between your hands. Right knee comes down. Protect that right knee, remember. Bring the mat, sort of roll it underneath if you need that protection. Whew. Alright, come into this high variation first. So your back knees underneath. You can move the back knee back if you like, tuck or untuck the toes, and just sink down into it a little bit more. And then think about pressing into the back foot. Imagine pulling that left out hip forwards, right out hip back. So you're almost trying to get the hips square a little bit more. Just keep that sort of pressure, pressing down, feel the muscles sort of turn on a little bit. Breathe in, and breathe out. So everything's really active, not just passive. And then relax that pushing into the back foot and sink down into it a little bit more. Hug the low ribs in, so have core engagement here, shoulder blades back and down. So always thinking about drawing those shoulders back rather than rounding. Lovely, everyone. And how's your breath? Are you breathing in and out with a nice smooth rhythm, or are you holding your breath? Just noticing. Lovely. Alright, moving on to the next variation. So bringing the blocks on the inside of that leg and heel toeing that left foot out to the left side. And then either coming onto your elbows or elbows down onto the blocks. And that leg can go out to the side a little bit, as long as the knee or the toes in the same direction. And then maybe move that right knee back a little bit. Just notice how this feels. Settling into a really quite deep lizard lunge. Just finding a bit of opening, so you're feeling this a lot in this hip flexor already. And again, try to avoid rounding too much like this. Try to open up. Squeeze the backs of the shoulders towards each other. If that means coming up a bit higher, that's good as well. Taking a few more breaths, inhaling and exhaling, smooth and steady. Finding a bit of space, a bit of energy. And then if you're on your elbows, just come up onto that right hand. Bring the left hand onto the inside of that left knee. Maybe you're on the outside edge of the left foot. The instep raises up. And then either staying here and letting yourself sink into that right hip flexor, or bend the right knee, reach around, hold on to that foot with your hand, or use a strap. It's quite tricky with a strap, I know. But if you need to use a strap, you'll bring in a strap or dressing gown cord around that back foot. So hopefully you can see me all right. And then you're kicking the foot, so you're holding onto your left foot or the strap with your right foot, should I say, or the strap with your left hand. So it's the other hand to that foot. If you've got a hold of that foot or the strap, you're kicking the foot against the hand and opening that left shoulder out. So you should feel a nice openness here in the shoulder. I hope I don't look too dark. I think the sun's gone down here. It's not quite bright enough. Anyway, hopefully you can see me. Breathe in. Keep the foot against the hand. Breathe out. Maybe sink into that hip flexor a little bit more. Good. And then keep a hold of that foot. Just simply turn your shoulders to face the front. Maybe move your hand to the other side of the foot, turning your shoulders to face the front of the mat. I like to stay high, but you can come down onto your elbow again if you have the space. Bring that right elbow down onto the mat. So the knee will naturally come into the centre a little bit more. The left knee. Lovely. How's your hip flexors feeling? Oh, inhaling. Oh, and exhale. Release that foot just a moment. Let that foot come down. Heel toe that left foot into the centre and come up into that, a little bit higher into this lunge. And then you're going to take that, bend the knee again, reach around with the right hand, so the same hand as that bent knee. Hold on to the foot if you can. If not, remember you can use your strap around the sole, the bottom of the foot. And if you've got a hold of it, you're going to move your fingertips to face forwards, maybe if you can, and press that heel towards your bottom. So a strap or a dressing gown cord is always good to hold on to that. Ooh, I'm feeling this. Inhaling. Oh, and exhaling. Shall we release it now? Or shall we wait for Sarah? Do you want to do it, Sarah? We're waiting for you. Well done. Oh, and then release that. Oh. Come into a hamstring stretch. Straighten the left leg and reach the left toes up to the ceiling. I like to have my blocks to bring the ground up to me here, so I can keep bringing my shoulder blades back towards each other and not round. But if you can reach the ground, that's fine. And then you're reaching forwards with your chin towards your toes. And at the same time, you're trying to imagine bringing that left out hip back and the right out hip forwards, but nothing's moving. It's just all very small movement in your pelvis. Remember, your knee and your hips are in one line. You're not sitting too far back. That's good. So you should feel nice stretching the hamstring here. Like I said, we'll do a nice deep stretch in the hamstrings soon enough. Take a couple more breaths here. Keep squeezing the shoulder blades towards each other. Get a little bit of openness, at least flat back if you can. Lovely, everyone. And then exhale, bend into that front knee. Hands come down and find a downward facing dog. Ooh. Bring the knees down, come into a child's pose. Or just let the knees bend, the forehead down, arms stretch forward. How are you doing? Your hip flexors, probably feeling it now. I know. Maybe your glutes as well a little bit. Alright, so from here, we're going to make our way into a little bit of a more deeper hip stretch. and hamstrings too. So come up to a tabletop, bring your knees in underneath your hips and find down dog. Oh. Reach the right leg up for me and then bend the knee and open the hip. And then we're going to move in and out of a wild thing just a few times just to go Pilates, a little bit around the hips to get a little bit of heart opening. So breathe in first. As you breathe out, come onto the outside edge of the left foot. The right sole of the foot comes down and lift the hips up, reach the arm up. And then exhale, look down, bring that right hand down, reach the right leg up. Inhale here. Bend that right knee, open the hip, start to pivot on the left foot, bring the right foot behind you, and open up the hips to the ceiling. Get a nice sense of an openness in the front body. And then breathe out, come back to center. Down dog with that right leg raised. Last time. Inhale here. Bend and open the hip. Send that right foot behind you. Find a nice wild thing. Reach the right arm up and over, maybe looking behind you. Lifting the hips up a little bit higher to the ceiling if you can. And then bring that right hand down. Three-legged down dog. Inhaling here. And then exhale, step that right foot forwards. And coming into like a movement in your, from this lunge, this high lunge to a pyramid. So as you inhale, start to straighten that right knee and lift the right toes up to your face, so they're pointing towards your face. And then exhale, come forward. So remember, you can use your blocks to keep those shoulder blades reaching towards each other. Inhale, come back into your pyramid, toes facing up. Exhale, come down. Good, two more times. Inhaling, coming back. All the while you're trying to imagine your right out hip back, left out hip forwards. Exhale, forwards. One more time, come back. And find yourself in a pyramid pose. So slightly step that back foot forwards a little bit and put the heel down. Bring that right out hip back, left out hip forward, get everything hugging into the midline. Lovely. Just pause here for a moment. Maybe lengthen the head forwards, maybe the chin comes towards the shin. Yeah, just find your nice deep stretch in this pyramid pose. Breathe into the space where you feel this the most. We know where our attention goes, the energy flows, so really make the most of that. And then staying in your pyramid, just lift up that back heel a little bit. Inhale, so that you're coming forwards a little bit. And exhale, press the back heel down. Do that a few more times, just pulsing a few times. You don't have to do it with your breath, you can do it a bit faster if you like. So you feel this in your calf muscle, especially at the back, but also just working into this hip a little, into the hamstrings a little bit, getting a bit of movement in this hamstring stretch. Lovely, and then find stillness. Good. From here, bend into that front knee. Maybe wiggle the back foot back a little bit and bring that back knee down. And then come into a pigeon. So bring that right foot over to the left side and sit down into that right knee. So my heel likes to be close to my groin. It's better for most of our knees. But if you can get your shins parallel, that's good for you. I can't do that, that's fine though. Come into this high pigeon. Make sure you've got your strap there in case you need it. We're going to stretch into this, we're going to bend the back knee in a minute. So stay in the high pigeon first. And really get a little bit of sort of, I want you to feel this in the hip flexors still. So it's a lot in the hip flexors, I know. So you're feeling it in the right out hip, but also in the hip flexor. Remember, if that bent knee hip is up high up off the ground, use a block or something to protect your right knee, so that it's not, your hip's not, you haven't got a gap between your hip and the floor. So if you were like this, you know, you put something underneath, right? Okay, from here, if you can, you're going to bend that left knee, reach around with your left hand and just hold on to either the outside or the inside of the foot. I'm going to hold on to the outside of the foot, so my pinky toe edge, and then turn and open your chest, bring your chest to face the front of the mat rather than coming round to the side. And trying to bring that heel towards your bottom a little bit more. Good. And if you've got the balance, you can reach your right arm back as well and hold on to the ankle area and press the foot against the hands to open up the front body. But, you know, it doesn't matter if this is not for you today, it doesn't matter. Wherever you are, see if you can now kick that foot against the hand, opening up through the front of that left shoulder, but keep that left shoulder forwards. Good, one more breath. Not here for too long. Inhaling. I hope your knee's okay, Lisa. And exhaling. Lovely. Gently release that. Oh. Slowly go over onto your, oh no, we're not doing that yet. We'll do that in a minute. I've got another nice thing for you in a moment. Come back up into a downward facing dog. Oh, just pedal the feet out. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Good, okay, so let's reach that left leg up to the sky and just open into this hip. Bend the knee, open the hip, so lifting the left knee up high to the sky. And then as you exhale, you can flip your dog if you like. Remember, this is only an option, coming into Wild Thing. Reaching up with the hand over you. So really try and send both hips up to the sky. Good. Look down towards the floor. Bring that left hand down. Exhaling and reach that left leg up to the sky. Good. Inhale here. And then exhale, flipping your dog, coming onto the outside edge of the right foot. Left sole of the foot is on the mat, so the left heel should be raised. That will give you a bit more height. Good. Look down to the mat. Left hand down, left leg up. Inhale here. And then exhale, last time. Flip your dog, opening up even more. Maybe the whole of the right foot is on the mat, the left heel is raised, sending the hips up to the sky. Nice back bend. Good, exhale. Left hand down, left leg up. Breathe in here. And then let's step that foot to the front of the mat. Bring the right knee down and heel toe the left foot to the left. Oh no, sorry, pyramid. Coming up into the high lunge. I told you, I was all over the place today. Use your blocks to bring the ground up to you if you need to. And then let's straighten into that front knee, toes reach up. Breathe in here. And exhale, bend into that front knee. Shoulder blades squeeze towards each other. Inhale, straighten the toes up. So try to keep a nice long spine. Exhale, come forwards. All the while imagining drawing the left out hip back. Inhale to come back and the right out hip forwards. And exhale forwards. Good, next inhale, come back. Staying here this time. Step that right foot in a little bit into a pyramid so that the heel's down. Bring the left out hip back, right out hip forwards, and lengthen forwards. So you can use your blocks or not, depends on your space. And just keep breathing with this. Press equally into both feet so that you're not just putting all the sort of stretch into the front hamstring, you're also thinking about the back leg. Inhaling. And exhale. Lovely. Bend into that front knee again. Step the back foot back and come down onto that right knee for that pigeon variation. So heel toe the left foot to the right and that left knee. Come into your pigeon. So again, if it's different on this side, it might be. In actual fact, it's easier for balance if you do have something to support you under that hip. So you're feeling this as much in this hip flexor as this hip in a moment. variation that we're doing. Finding a proud pigeon, really let that right hip sink down towards the mat. Lovely. Draw the shoulder blades back towards each other. Stay with your breath. And then bend that right knee. If you can, reach around with your right hand. Otherwise, hold on with your strap. You can hold on to the inside or the outside. And turn your shoulders to face the front of the mat. So you're trying to really feel that you can square off your shoulders to the front of the mat. And then start to kick that foot against your hand, hand resists foot. You want to get a little bit more intensity, or else just keep pulling the heel towards your bottom. See how that feels. It's quite an awkward pose, I know. If it doesn't feel good in your low back, then it's good to lean forwards a little bit, just to ease that off. And think about lengthening the tailbone down. So tucking under a little bit, rather than going into sort of a deep back bend like this. Lovely, and then slowly release. And then plant your hands and downward facing dog. Take any movement that you need to in that knee or hip, maybe pedal the down dog, maybe circle the hips or the knees, depends how it feels. So listening into your body, moving intuitively rather than just trying to get the perfect shape. It's a lot what this is all about. Right. From here, let's step the right foot forwards again. Come onto that left knee. Have your blocks next to you and come into the half splits. Toes reach up to the sky. Lovely. And let's find a little bit deeper hamstring stretch. So either stay here and make sure that the knee and the hip are in one line and that you're trying to bring the right out hip back, left out hip forwards. Or you can sort of bring that left knee back, the right foot forwards. Maybe a block comes under that front thigh to support you in a splits variation, or come down into full splits if you have it. But all the while, see, I can come down, but if I do, my hips slightly turn towards the left. So I'm going to try and force this left out hip to come forwards a bit in space, and the right out hip back. So I'm keeping this integrity in my low spine. It makes it a little bit more difficult, but actually what I'm doing is I'm getting more of a stretch in my hamstring. You can stay upright or you can lean forwards. Good. If you need 2 blocks, if you need a cushion, that's fine. If you're in half splits, that's perfect too. Take another about 3 or 4 breaths. Bring the shoulder blades towards each other. How are you doing? Inhaling. And exhale. So you should feel this quite a lot in this hip flexor as well. We've done loads on our hip flexors, haven't we? Probably a bit too much. Alright. One more breath. Inhaling. And breathe out. Okay, bring both hands down. Step that right foot in. Oh. Come back to downward facing dog. And just pedal it out a moment. I'm going to do that on the other side. So left side, step the left foot forwards, come down onto the right knee. I don't need to tell you to protect your knee. And then come into Ardha Hanumanasana, half splits. Toes can face up if you like towards your face. Meaning that your right hip and knee are in one line, so you're not leaning back like this. You're coming forwards, drawing the shoulder blades towards each other. Either stay here or start to reach that left foot forwards, right knee back. Notice that your one side is going to be different than the other side. That's fine. Try and get a balance where you're doing the same on both sides. Keep bringing that left out hip back and the right out hip forwards. Good, so the spine is trying to stay as neutral rather than thinking, oh, I can come down, but then you're twisting to the side and not getting quite as deep a hamstring stretch. So everything is active in this deep stretching rather than passive. Send the breath to that area where you're feeling it the most. Might be your hamstring, but it might also be your hip flexor as well, and the other's leg, the back leg. Lovely. Take about 3 more breaths, breathing in and out. Exhaling out. Reach down, start to bring that front foot back, back knee in. Hands come down. Whew. Come back to a tabletop and find a child's pose a moment. Should feel really nice coming to a child's pose. Bend the knees. Forehead towards the mat. Hips back, arms forward. We're going to come away from the legs a little bit. You'll be glad here. And stretch through the spine. A little bit more, opening the front body, rounding through the back body and finding a bit of twist, and also into the shoulders a little bit. So reach the fingertips even further forwards. Keep reaching them forwards, keep walking them forward so much that your hips start to come up. Bring your knees so that they're hip width apart, and walk your hands as far forwards as you think you can, but keep your knees and your hips in one line, coming into puppy pose. So your arms reach forwards and you let your chest sink down. So you've got a little bit of a back bend in your low back, opening up through the shoulders. You might have your forehead on the mat or towards the mat. You might have your chest if you have very open shoulders. Mine is super tight. So you should feel a little bit of an arch in your low back as your chest sinks towards the mat. So it's puppy pose, just like you see those dogs and puppies taking when they want to play with us. We're not going to be here too long, this is super intense. I want to get through a few more stretches. Just take some breaths. If it's too intense for your shoulders, you do have a shoulder problem, you can bend one elbow and straighten the opposite arm. So you can take, half puppy pose. That's just as good. It's just a little bit less intense than having both elbows out. If you have just got one arm out, that's fine, but just change size. So I'm doing the one arm variation. It's too much on my shoulders today. Lovely. Next breath in, walk your hands back. Ooh. Lower yourself all the way onto your belly. Alright. And then you should feel nice and open in your hip flexors now. So you're going to bend both knees and reach the arms back. Hold on to the outside or the inside. It really depends on how your shoulders feel. I actually prefer to hold on to the outsides of my feet, or actually just below my feet where my ankles are. So we're going to come up into a floor bow and we're going to move up and down into it. We're not going to sort of hold it too static for the first few times. So everyone here, roll the tops of your shoulders, so that your shoulder heads, roll them back and down so that you're squeezing the backs of your shoulder blades towards each other. So you're already opening the collarbones. And then take a breath in, start to kick the feet against your hands, get a little bit of a lift into your floor bow. Inhale here, and then exhale, lower down, come down, bring the heels closer to your hips. Lovely, and again. Kick the feet against your hands, inhale. So you don't need to lift your thighs up too high, it doesn't matter if they don't come up very high, just kick back. See if you can lift up a little bit higher. Don't strain your neck to look up. And then exhale, lower down. Lovely, one more time, holding it this time, so kick the feet against the hands. I sometimes like to flex my toes behind me, gives me that much more leverage to get a little bit more of an openness. Not holding it for too long, just another couple of breaths. Breathing in, and breathing out. Inhale, and exhale. lower down. Oh, bring the hands underneath the forehead, elbows out to the side, and just rock your hips back side to side. Maybe taking your feet up to the ceiling and taking windshield wipers if that feels good on your low back. Let's take a brief pec minor stretch. So bring the left elbow out to your left side, let your feet come down onto the mat. So your left elbow is in line with your shoulder and your fingertips are in line with your elbow as well. So like a cactus. Bring the right hand just next to your chest and push yourself a little bit over towards the left side. Your left ear will be on the mat. You might not go over very far. It really depends on your sort of shoulder flexibility, but also, you know, you're stretching into your pec muscles. If you can bring that right foot behind you. I can't really do that with too much ease. I know I'm getting a nice stretch here, if you can feel it into your pecs. So if you can't feel it too much, probably your elbow is too low. You need to bring it up so it's parallel to your shoulder. Just getting a little bit of openness. So this is stretching into your pec minor. Breathe in. And exhale. Lovely, rolling over onto your front, so we're not holding that too long. And change sides, so bring the right arm out to the side like a cactus, elbow in line with shoulder, hands in line with elbow. Right ear onto the mat, and maybe turn yourself as your left hand's just in front of your chest. Turn yourself onto that right side body. One side's probably going to feel a bit more open than the other. This is a really good area to stretch into, because in this area your pec minor tends to be one of those muscles that shortens and pulls you forwards, especially as we get older and as we're rounding a lot over our phones and things. We all want a nice upright posture, I think. So this is a nice way to stretch that out. Lovely, just take a couple more breaths here. And then slowly roll back onto your belly. Okay. Alright, we're going to push yourself all the way up. And come on to your backs. So just sit onto either side. I'm going to come into a nice heart opening. Actually, I think we'll do a camel. Come back onto your knees. So we're going to come into a camel pose just because you've opened a lot here and you've opened a lot in your shoulders, so it should feel quite nice to do this. And we'll do it twice and hold it for about between 5 and 8 breaths if you can, okay? So you're going to stand on your knees, try and keep your knees hip width apart and your hips in line with your knees. And you can have your back toes tucked if you like. You can also have blocks next to your feet to hold on to if you are going back, or else you can hold on to your heels. You'll know where you are if you do this regularly. Bring your hands just to protect your lumbar spine and think about lengthening down here so that you're keeping that integrity. Really, you're protecting your low back from arching too much. You don't want the back bend coming from your low back too much. You really want to see if you can lift up from your sternum. Okay, so keep lengthening down here, hugging the ribs in towards each other, engaging the core. Roll the tops of the shoulders back, squeeze the elbows in. Take a breath in, start to send the sternum up towards the ceiling. You can turn your gaze up to the ceiling if you like, and if it feels okay in your neck, but you might prefer to keep your chin in neutral. And keep opening the sternum up as you're breathing in and out. Keep the hips reaching forwards. You can either stay there with your hands or reach your hands back to blocks or back to your heels. You can bring your hands flat on your heels. Maybe keep opening up the sternum, looking back behind you, growing long in the neck, But don't go like this. If you couldn't talk while you were like this, with your head back, then it's too much for your neck and you need to be looking forwards. Good, just take about another 3 breaths. Obviously, if you need to back out at any time, engage your core and protect your lumbar spine with your hands again, and come back up and just sit back onto your heels and pause. One more breath, inhale. And exhale. Hands come onto your lumbar spine, engage your core, come back up to centre, untuck the toes if they are tucked. Oh, sit back down onto your heels. I'll just pause a moment. Alright. I think we'll only do one of those since we have done quite a few of the floor bows. And we're running out of time. So, bring your blocks to the side, turn yourself to sitting on your bottom. Let's just take some nice side body stretches, a little bit of a forward fold in a minute, I promise, and twist. Alright, I don't want to take up your whole day. You've probably got lots of things planned. So, we're going to take a nice side body stretch in a straddle. I like to sometimes have a block on the outside of my thigh, but you don't have to. And then, starting with the elbows at my crown of the head, I'm just going to turn and face that left leg, so I'm not mirroring you. And then bring your right elbow towards the knee, maybe straighten the right arm out and reach a hold of the foot. And if you like, reaching that left arm up and over. Try not to let this bring your body forwards. Try and keep opening to the side, maybe looking up to the ceiling. Maybe you can hold on to the toe. Maybe you can snuggle that right shoulder inside the thigh a little bit more. Or perhaps you're up here and you want to bring that left hand behind you for like a half bind to really open up. I quite like that sometimes. It just feels a bit easier in my shoulder and like I can really bend into the side. And your left hip probably will lift up, but think about lengthening it down and notice how this opens up this left side a little bit more. So you might not even have moved it very far, but just that little bit of action. Go easy though. Don't want anything being pulled. Breathing in. And breathing out. Looking good, everyone. A couple more breaths here, in and out. And then come all the way back up to centre. Pause a moment. And let's do the other side. So hands come to your temples, turn towards that right side. If you want, you can bring that block again on the other side of the leg just to rest your elbow on. Reach the arm up and over, perhaps stretch that left arm, the bottom arm, towards the foot. Maybe the left shoulder comes inside, the left thigh. Perhaps the right hand can hold on to the toes as long as you're looking underneath that armpit, towards the ceiling. Maybe you bring your hand behind you. Whatever you did on the other side really. And try and lengthen that right hip downwards a little bit more towards the floor. Not in a way that's going to hurt you, just in a way that you can feel a bit more of a sort of stretch one way and an opposing stretch in the other way. Into the right side body. Just take a few more breaths here, breathing in and out. And then come back up to centre. Pause. And then we're going to come forwards in a forward fold straddle. So if you prefer to have your legs together, or even if you prefer to take the hamstrings out of it and bend your knees, you can do that as well. I'm going to do it in a forward fold straddle, so you're just going to walk your hands forward, so hinging from your hips, try and keep a nice straight spine. So you're coming forwards with your spine. And perhaps you come down and, you come a little bit closer. Perhaps you're up here, that's fine. Or if you've got your knees bent, your feet together, and you can actually round through your spine. So just having a little bit of a forward fold in your body that suits your body. And just take about another 3 or 4 breaths here. Smooth and steady. Maybe sighing it out again, just like you did at the beginning. Inhale. Next breath in, start to walk your hands back, come all the way upright, and then bend both knees, and then lower yourself down onto the mat. Hug your knees in towards your chest for Apanasana. We'll just take a little twist. I'm just going to do a eagle legs twist. I like this one, but if you find it easier to do a simple twist, just twist both knees over into one direction and then the other. Otherwise, you're going to cross your right thigh up high over your left. Bring your arms out to a T. Put your left foot down just for a moment and wiggle your hips over to the right, and then both knees come over to the left side. And turn your gaze over towards your right fingertips so the other way to your hands, to your knees. Let your shoulders really be heavy if you can. Doesn't matter if your knees don't quite reach the floor as long as your back's not hurting. Let everything soften. No need to hold on to this with too much tension. Next breath in. Bring your knees back up to the center and just change sides. So undo that crossing, cross up high with eagle legs. Maybe shift the hips over to the left a little bit, and then the knees come to the right. Heavy the shoulders again. So remember, if eagle legs is too much for your low back, then just bend both knees. Bring both knees over to the right. Let go of everything, let go of the need to plan, just be. Then bring your knees back up to center. Center your hips, undo the legs, hug the knees in one more time. Obviously you can take any last little poses you want to. I've taken enough of your time now. I'm just going to roll my hips by holding onto my knees, taking circles in one direction and then the other. Getting ready for Shavasana. And as I said, I think I said it to you last week, if you prefer to take a seated meditation, you can always come to a seat. You should feel nice and open in the hips to take an easy cross-legged Sukhasana. Otherwise, finding that lovely Shavasana, bringing your legs out long, as wide as you want them to, toes out to the side, arms out to the side, palms up. Even if you only spend 60 seconds here, just give yourself time, that quiet, before the day begins. I'll let you stay here as long as you want, or as short as you want. Thank you for joining me. Lovely practice, everybody. And namaste.